Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. I know it's only been a week. What is she going to talk about this week? Look, welcome back to Mission Accepted. You're an incredible audience. Love you, adore you. And you know what? You are a multi-generational audience. That's what you are. I know that you are living your mission. You're here to hear about missions and you are passing that on because really that's what we do, right? We make changes in our life. We grow personally, we go professionally. And guess what? People watch, particularly the ones that are in the same house. Today, we're going to talk with Carroll Patrizi, and you have seen her on the 262 stage. Open up your next 262 book, and you are going to read her story as we make our way onto the next award ceremony. I know right now you are cheering us on. We just came from the Emmys. We're so excited. Thank you for all your support. We're not going to announce it yet, but we are basking in the glory of the book and the message behind the book just getting spread all around the world right now. So we are super excited about that. And so have you been. And I just want to share my appreciation. But here's the deal. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the multi-generation. I've got Carroll on today because we were talking pre-show about what it's like to have business and family. And both of us, now I call myself a yaya. I don't know what she calls herself. She's going to tell us. But we have this multi-generational entrepreneurial experience going on. And one of the benefits that we love about being an entrepreneur is freedom. But there also comes all sorts of things with that, like how do you have a family and a business at the same time? What do you say yes to? What do you say no to? Where do you start? Where do you stop? All that good stuff. We're going to dive into it because the bottom line is there's more and more people becoming entrepreneurs. And if they're not doing it full time, they're doing it like a part-time job. And that impedes. And it's usually okay to impede on your girlfriend time, your guy friend time, whatever it is. You can't go here, you can't go there. But your family has to adjust to your decisions. They benefit, and then sometimes they don't. So Miss Carroll, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? This is not the first time you've hit the 262 stage. But let's talk a little bit. Let's dive deep into this whole family, business, entrepreneurial, momager, dadager life.
Well, first of all, I love being here. I love everything that, Deb, that you stand for, your mission, 262. What a gift to be a part of it. So thanks for having me. Hey, you great audience. I know Deb loves y'all. I love y'all. You know, you love your people's people, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate y'all. I have been an entrepreneur my entire life. I'm one of 11 kiddos. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs. That helped a lot. Very cool to have a mother that after raising 11 children, number 11 was 5. She had graduated from the University of Texas, and back there, that was a big deal for a woman. So I've always been so proud of her. And Dad always cheered her on. He's a kind of an earthly hero kind of guy. And I watched them manage 11 children, babies at home, dancing, sports, all kinds of clubs. We did everything. I used to ask my mother, how in the world did you do this? And she said, I can't remember. That was really early. She said, you do what you got to do. And
Yeah.
you do the very best you can. And I appreciated that. She didn't have any perfectionism around it. She did everything she could. But what I realized is she was, they were both at it. Admittedly, there were some very volatile moments, as you might imagine, with 11 children, some in college and some in diapers. I mean, kind of a big spread. And the coolest part about it was that the reason she went to work when William, number 11, was 5, was because it was time. Dad had made a whole bunch of money and lost a bunch of money. And one of his friends said, Carol, you have to become a real estate agent. You're the smartest person I know. And she went to work. First of all, she said, well, okay, let me go get my license. So she taught school for a little while, took baby William with her at kindergarten. And then she not only got her real estate license, she became top producer, all the things. And we were all just so proud, especially my dad. And then things turned around for them. The point of that being we have to do what we have to do. And they did it to be with us. And so that we had the education they wanted us to have. They wanted us to go to the parochial school and all the things. Well, it never crossed my mind not to work.
Mm.
It just never crossed my mind. I went to work when I was about 13 or 14. I think I went to Baskin and Robbins, and you can believe how strong you have to be to scoop that ice cream. And that's it's just how it's what you do,
Yeah.
right? And now in this day and age, you don't meet many people that don't work, men and women alike, and
Mhm.
they form these families. Well, long story short, I said, well, I'm going to follow my mother. Became a real estate agent, worked on my own for my own time. While I was doing that, I realized, ooh, okay, this is 24/7 when you work for yourself.
Mm.
That is the key that I think everyone needs to understand. You might work more hours,
Mhm.
but they're going to be your hours,
Mhm.
and it's going to be you're accountable. And, Deb, and she knows this with all my heart. I am a big accountability person. It changed my life. I waited for a long time for somebody to save me. I don't know about y'all. I was all for it. Yeah, come on. Wait, what do you want to do for me? And then you realize they're not showing up. And so, accountability is a big deal. She taught us that. Dad taught us that. And as entrepreneurs, I do feel we are sharing a life example of accountability and create what you want. What happens is, and in my example, I just copied my mother.
Mhm.
I didn't sit back and talk to her about getting calls at 10 and 11 o'clock at night. She didn't give the dark side. And so from there, I started having kiddos. So I decided I'd go into lending because I'd studied finance. So it all worked out. Entrepreneurship as a single person is beautiful. If you choose to have a partner and have a family, it is also beautiful. However, I now would say to people, talk to the entrepreneurs that are in the fields that you're interested in. Go talk to them. What can they share with you that would save you time or help you set up better at the beginning? I
Mhm.
don't think a lot of times we don't spend enough time up front. We're all so excited. We dive in, and I'm all for that. And we're passionate and we're learning on the go. Heck, I'm learning right now. I work with Deb all the time. I want to learn and grow and learn and grow and create more companies. I can't stop. I love it. However, I do think that sometimes a little more conversation and planning with people that have done what we're interested in is so important. People that are successful, they want to share that information as well. Do you find that to be true, Deb?
Absolutely. You know what's interesting because as you're talking, you're reminding me about when I was in school and they were preparing us for life. They were like, we want you to do information interviews, which is calling people, but it was more they had a job, you wanted to go into that job. I mean, entrepreneurship wasn't on the agenda for schooling and teaching and whatever. So, but they were like, go talk to these people and ask them about their job so you can get some insight into how to apply for your job and what it was going to be like. And I remember even doing that with my daughter. My daughter had finished school. She decided she wanted to be the lawyer for the UN. So I went and talked to the regional director of the of Amnesty International. I love that organization. So I knew that, and I said, let's bring Chloe in, and can you tell her what it would like to be for a lawyer of the UN? And he sat down and he told her all the things, as you call it. That's Carol's term, all the things. So he told her all the things. And that's about as far as it went. The world of entrepreneurship is vast, right? And so it doesn't start with a resume. It doesn't start with a bio necessarily. You get to hire yourself, you get to fire yourself, you know. There's no information interviews to be had. I really love what you say about going and finding someone who's been there, because it's kind of like, you know, when there's a new entrepreneur talking to a new entrepreneur, they don't know everything yet. And there's a tendency to maybe make it look better or sound better than some of it is. And there's a tendency to think that some of the problems you're having are solo based on you. I don't know that information yet, therefore this is happening. I've never had a business and two kids under 4, so this is happening. I never realized that my partner was going to have to go through extra things as well, and it's going to affect our family schedule, or some of those things that just pop up. It's kind of like when your girlfriend's pregnant and she's going to have a baby. The last thing that she wants to hear or you want to tell her is that delivery might be a little difficult, right? Because everyone goes in. I remember I went in, I had my aromatherapy, I had my this, I had my that, I had it all planned out. And honestly, within 2 hours, all heck broke loose. And I was like, someone could have told me. You know, by the time my daughter was born, I think there was like 8 doctors in the room. It really went awry. No one prepared me for that possibility. Aromatherapy, what? Throw it out the window. You know what I mean? It was like,
Bring on the shots.
Yeah,
Bring on
yeah.
the shots.
So I think that when you talk to someone who's got an experience, they can help forecast that a little bit. And let's talk a little bit about what it's like. So I had decided to become an entrepreneur while I was pregnant with my daughter. So my kids have never seen anything other. I mean, I've contracted and stuff like that. They've never seen anything else. My daughter went into entrepreneurship, worked for my company, and then you could see she really loved the cog of corporate world, and she made her way up the ladder and then decided to do some entrepreneur stuff on the side. And right now she's taking care of babies. But the interesting thing for me is I had never been a mom, an entrepreneur, and I decided to do both at the same time, like literally both at the same time. And that was pretty funky. It was a lot of learning as you went along. I don't know how you dealt with it, but there does come an extra bucket of parental guilt. When I decided to be an entrepreneur, I had people say to me like, what are you doing? Like, you're a mom, you know, in my family, in my family, I didn't come from that same family. And so there was things that I had to work out. I've never had maternity leave. I don't know what that feels like. I've never had sick leave. Don't know what that's like either. And so we had to barrel through a lot of that. What about for you when you were home with your babies?
With my oldest, 3 kiddos, Houston, Alice, Carroll, and Mary Pat. Houston is now, I think he's 38. Unbelievable. And that was the first time since I guess I was 13 or 14 years old that I didn't work. And I didn't work for 2 years. I didn't know how to do it. I'll be completely honest. And let me tell you, in spite of me, that is the most wonderful young man you can possibly imagine. I was home. I had the opportunity to stay home.
Yeah.
And guilted into it. You ought to stay home. You've had exactly what you're saying. And, so I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get a thing done. I couldn't get a thing done. I couldn't figure out how to get organized. I wasn't great not working. I'll be completely honest. And I went back to work. It was just so much better. My mother, back to my sweet mother, when she did go to work, she told every one of us, had I known how much easier working is than raising children, I'd have gone to work a long time ago. And she was so successful. So I felt guilty, stayed home, realized, okay, I hope other people are doing this better than I am. I mean, my baby was certainly loved. We did everything together, but I didn't get anything else done.
Right.
And so I said, well, okay, I've got to go back to work. So I said, forget this. So I went back to selling real estate, love it so much, decided to do lending as well, because I will say, as an entrepreneur, oftentimes we are creating businesses every time we turn around. And, the hardest thing is not to tell other people how to do theirs. Like, good God, you could do that so much more efficiently. But anyway, I've kind of gotten a little bit better at that. I went back to work. I loved it. My time was full. At the end of the day, I felt fulfilled.
Hmm.
And I felt like it was actually better for Houston because he was now, if you go back to work, either somebody's going to be at home or they're going to be interacting with little ones in some caregiving atmosphere. And, you know, it worked out beautifully. Then I was pregnant again. Here comes Alice Carroll. Like I know for you, then here was
Hmm.
coming Ocean. It never crossed my mind not to work. So before she arrived, I set up a different office. I went full time into lending so I could be in the same house. I still had help, but they came in the house. I
Hmm.
was here. I was near.
Yeah,
I figured out what times would be best for me to sleep and to feed her. And you work it out. To your point, I love that you say people do not tell pregnant women my niece, she called up and said, I thought you loved me more than that. And I said, I love you so much. She said, well, it was like you lied to me,
yeah, yeah,
withholding
yeah.
information. It's amazing, but it works out. Entrepreneurship is excellent. There are sacrifices. There's sacrifices not working as well.
Absolutely. Like touche. I think either way you go, there's both. One is not better than the other. It depends on what works for you. But as we're sitting here, we've both taken the mission, and a lot of people listening taking the mission. Let's talk a little bit about, I can share some things that I did that made it easier and adaptable, right? So like you, I had a massage company at the time and I was nursing, right?
Yeah.
And so I had this amazing young woman that would come to the house. I'd nurse. She'd take Chloe to the park. She'd play. She'd be in a. Now I had to have a quiet house, so they would go to the community center or whatever. And I would do a treatment, and then she'd bring her back, and then we'd have lunch, and then I'd do a treatment, and then she'd come back, and that would be our day. I mean, you just make things work. And I think it's so much more available and accessible to have your work at home now, right?
Yes.
I mean, it was not, and then to be able to have services come to you, people come to you. That whole thing is very different. But I think some of the things that I did that was critical for me is having communication with the kids. Like
Oh,
having communication and say, instead of just being gone or doing this, like, hey, mom's gonna go do a massage. This super great client of mine, she's amazing, she has 4 cats, whatever. I made part of my work really interact with them instead of just going and coming or going and coming, and they don't really know anything. So I made a point of that. A couple of things I did is I left town, so as they started to get older and my work changed, right, I wasn't doing those treatments anymore. I was changing and traveling around the world really and distributing products. It was, I left a little gift for them to open each night on their pillow with a little note. And it didn't have to be anything big, right? But it was, they always appreciated it when it was money. But, it was like, but these little gifts so that when they went to bed at night, probably I did it for my sake more than anyone, thinking, oh, they're going to miss me at night. But it made for that evening phone call. Okay, oh my gosh, go open your present. Let me know tomorrow what it was. Those kind of things, like really got them involved and showed them the money in and the money out. I talked about this. I don't know if it was this show. Well, obviously with maybe not my show, but I was talking about how we would go to the bank, and I thought it was really important. We'd go to the ATM. So I'd be with Ocean and I'm like, okay, you need a pair of pants. We're going to go for dinner. And I would say, oh, well, when mommy was at that show, when mommy was working last week, I made a sale. And so that money went into my account. So let's go take the money from that sale and go buy dinner or something that was rewarding for him, which started to make a circle for him. My
mhm.
mom's working, or my mom's this, or my mom's that. I mean, neither of my kids can say I wasn't at the pumpkin patch, right? Like I did that. But when we came home and we had dinner and I had to go back to work, I was like, we were at the pumpkin patch. I gotta accommodate that. So those are some of the things I did.
First of all, I want to commend you because I wasn't quite that clever, and I'm gonna text my daughter-in-law and say, "Oh, Deb said this is what she did," because she travels quite a bit. I was usually in town, so there
Yeah.
wasn't that gone at that time. But that's such a beautiful idea. And I'll tell you, I think something you said, and I do believe I was pretty darn good about it, was
Mhm.
communicating why and bringing them into when we are together, we're present and we are actually together, like at the pumpkin patch.
Mhm.
And now we got to go do this, and then we'll do something later. I think that um, when like you said, bring them into the conversation, number one is how nice as a youngster to be treated as an adult. And, they're brilliant and they know they are picking up on the energy. So it is so nice to say, we're going to serve. At that time, I was doing lending and I set up the mortgage company within my house.
Mhm.
And it was wonderful and it worked out great. So that was a beautiful thing to be able to do. And I would say I'm working with people to help them buy their homes. I'm talking to them, it's just like if somebody was talking to us, what do we do? What kind of a house do we need? And I think they love that because they could understand, oh, she's helping people that are like us.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
I would get to say, oh, look at these people that got this fabulous house. They actually were very appreciative. Um, and as they got older, back to a little of what we spoke about earlier, all three kiddos, but especially the youngest, Mary Pat, who's now 26, when she graduated from high school and then again from college, I said, you take 3 months, live at home, get a side job, but you do interviews. You take people to lunch, 2 to 3 people a week, and ask them what do they love about their work? What would they do differently? You get to talk to people in any field you're interested in. I did tell my children, admittedly, if y'all go into real estate, I would prefer that you do commercial because commercial real estate is a little more civilized. It's not as volatile.
Right. 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 Right.
We're in a very intimate relationship in homes.
Yeah.
But I love that you did that and it worked. My kids loved it. Um, yeah, did I forget them
Yeah.
at school sometimes? I sure did. And you know what? They're more forgiving for it, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's take it up to today because both you and I have stuck in and we are still entrepreneuring. And even though our kids are older, right? My youngest is 20, we're still moms. And not only are we moms, I'm a yaya and you're a grandma. Is it grandma they call you? Okay. So now
See,
we have this multi-generational thing. And kids are still kids, adults, and we have these kids. So let's talk a little bit about one of the biggest challenges of an entrepreneur, and that is your time availability and how you have to. You're great. I mean, if you don't know, she has a summit on accountability. That's how big this woman is on accountability. So between you with accountability and me and top performance, we're in trouble. So like really, how do you still work your day? Because you still have demands. There might be different demands. But we still, as the families grow and as they get bigger, it doesn't mean your demands necessarily get less. Sometimes it's the other direction. And what's it like to say yes or no to family? Or what's it like to say yes or no? Or how are you planning your day? Like, let's take it to today. What's some of your functionality or
so we talked a little bit about this pre-show, and
yeah, yeah.
one of the beautiful team members appreciated this statement. I'm going to repeat it. I love to, and I believe we share this, say yes as often as possible to my children, to my beautiful grandchildren, 2 little girls. And, but you still have to know how to say no.
Mhm, mhm.
The first time is not that easy. But just like we talked about communicating with our kiddos when they were younger, It's that same form of communication. It's like, please ask me first. As long as we both know, I'm going to say yes whenever I am able. However, that we both can be comfortable and gracious about the no's.
Mm-hmm.
There's a soccer game tonight. I think there have been three. I've been to three, and I'm not able to go to the one tonight. Great news is I'll get to hear about it. The way I set up my days, and again, I'm going to go ahead and shout out if y'all don't know that Deb does an incredible planner. She does, and we ought to get her to tell you a little bit about this. But I like to look ahead, plant things in.
Mm-hmm.
They share calendars. Their calendars are within my calendar.
Mm.
And I am able to see where it works. I do my very best to schedule around that. And I've also noticed that even the little girls, Merritt and Jane, oh my gosh, about to be 9 and 6, they like to talk about what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to create and businesses they'd like to be in. All the kiddos, they appreciate being able to work. They are all entrepreneurs. And it's a beautiful way to set up and to the communication is about learning and growing and scheduling time and making sure we set a time, a little family weekend, and you throw in, you have to be intentional. I think the greatest gift is paying attention to being intentional about our time. You probably, like I mean, I work, I call it work. I just do a lot of life in a day.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's how we do it, It's just I'm try to be very intentional with the big picture, put it all in there, do everything that I can.
I like how you say that. I like about, first of all, intentional. And for me, from our top performance or planner perspective, taking a look at the big picture, some things you're going to be able to do, some things that you can't do. I try not to miss weddings and the otherwise. Those always take priority.
Yes.
And sometimes, and I have to always remember that, I get to make these decisions. If
That's
I worked with someone else, I may not get that day off to go to that wedding or fly on the Thursday to make for the Friday on the Friday. So if there's things that I can't make or I can't do, it's a lot smaller than if it was the other way around. Because sometimes those can be disappointing. It's interesting. I have a 20-year-old. Most people know about Ocean, and him now becoming an entrepreneur and me helping him in a momager role. And he's like, "Well, we'll just do it Thursday." I'm like, I'm booked Thursday. Like, I don't know what you thought before you became an entrepreneur, but my day, you've lived here before, you know what my days look like. And it's interesting trying to have him re-see that. Do you know what I mean? As he's 20 and he's learning his own entrepreneurial, his entrepreneurial thing, he has an idea that my schedule works alongside of his or something. It's very interesting because even as an entrepreneur, your day can get quite scheduled and it can get quite committed. And I think, like you said, for me, it was a lot of things around, do my meetings need to be an hour? They can be 50 minutes. Do I need to, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can trim and find what's important. There's times where, you know what? The laundry is not important. Like, the laundry has not been folded in a week. And that might drive some people crazy. And it drove me crazy in the beginning. But then it's like, well, I can either fold the laundry or I can, and there's been times where I'm talking to, I'm Yaya and I'm talking to my granddaughter and I'm folding laundry at the same time and we're on video. She doesn't care. Do you know what I mean? But it is really, I always say it's the moments, not the hours, that will build your business. And it's really the moments, not the hours, that can make your life and someone else's life, have that satisfaction of relationship.
It's the truth. And as talking about a calendar and time, if we're not careful, I like to look at like a wedding, for example, the big rocks. We'll call them big rocks. And and I don't know if this professor, I believe he was at Yale, and he told everybody he had this jar and he filled it up with water filled it up with rocks. He filled it up, and you can fill it up just with a bunch of tiny, 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 tiny little specks of sand. There's no room for the big rocks in your life to go into that jar. You better figure out what the big rocks are, put them in there. You can fit so much more in there. You take that, just get some sand, pour it in. You're still getting a lot of teeny tiny little things that you never thought you had time for done. Yes, you do. Exactly like you said, you can figure it out. You
Mhm.
trim 5 and 10 minutes here and there. Admittedly, I have to trim my television watching. I love a good series. And I either have to watch it late at night and forget the sleep, or I don't binge. I mean, one way or another,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
it
yeah.
is so, it's learning, it's accepting, and it's sharing, and it's being honest. Shoot, I don't know. You and I don't know what we were doing, but the bottom line is all of us have the exact same amount of time.
Mhm.
And we all, let me tell you something, that beautiful 24 hours, if that's how they look at it, as you and I talk about, reverse engineer that day.
Yeah.
What you need is sleep. Well, you better take 8 hours off of that and then go backwards. And what do you have to get done? What in your family needs to get done first? And then you can get so much business done. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, especially as, and I know we're going to be wrapping up soon, but especially when you have passion for what you were doing. Prime example, I had a doctor's appointment today. So as I was I had a staff meeting beforehand and, they saw me put my jacket on and my shoes on. Come on, like no big deal, right? Then I get in the taxi and I'm on the phone. I tell them where I'm going and then I do my little thing and that's all cool and groovy. And then, I go and I'm in my waiting room. I'm not sitting there like, oh, do. Ocean had painted a new picture. He sent me a picture. I'm like, that's cool, dude. Blah, blah, blah. Like, and it didn't bother me because when it's yours and it feels fantastic. So there's lots of things that you can do. I think being a momager or a entrepreneurial mom that has everything, you have your responsibilities as a mom, you have responsibilities on many different levels for many different people in your business. You're an entrepreneur, you have multiple businesses. It is possible and it actually can be fun. Possible, it works. I personally love the time availability. I can manipulate my time. I actually think it's better. I actually think,
Ah,
yeah,
it's better.
it's
It's better.
better.
And we, again, like you said, we get to be accountable. We get to choose. And I do think, I will say this, I'm not saying it's easy is really not a word I
Yeah.
mess with a lot, but what it is, if you are learning and growing, if you're having fun, I love working with Deb on stuff. That is fun for me. If you are not, after a certain amount of
Mm.
completely focused time, not having fun, you might want to rethink what you're doing.
Yeah, whether it's entrepreneurship or not. I mean, entrepreneurship, and sometimes entrepreneurship doesn't work for the family. And there's things that you can do to trim that and adaptability. And then if you're not happy being an entrepreneur, if you're not happy working for someone else, I mean, sometimes it's a combination of both or none at all or more or less. And it all changes, right? As your kids change, as your life changes, as your demands change. Um, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, yes. I know we have to get off.
Yeah, I'm sure we need to wrap up, but I think that, so tell people where they can hang out with you. So here's what Carroll does. Carroll does these incredible summits. Because here's the deal. Personal development and business development is the same thing. Personal development and business development. If you are learning and growing, and we've been talking about what it's like to be entrepreneurs and parents and grandparents and what have you, and all of that entails, right? It's mastery, my friend. It's mastery. When that is flowing for the majority amount of time, that's just mastery. And so you are a master in terms of accountability and systems. I'm a master in terms of top performance and systems. I mean, that's why we hang out so much and talk. But tell people what you have where they can just come, entrepreneur, not entrepreneur, and be inspired. Like,
Come to carrollpatrizi.com, always in the works. Lots of summits go on, lots of podcasting goes on. Today I had a fabulous conversation workshop, and we talked about fears. A lot of times people don't jump in to becoming an entrepreneur because they're afraid.
Yeah.
Everybody's afraid. That's the good thing about fear. Let's turn it into a tool, talk about it, work through it. Yeah, carrollpatrizi.com. Hopefully you'll get a lot of value there. Reach out. Would love to talk. Love podcasts. It is exactly what Deb said. It's personal development does nothing but grow you in every area of your life, your relationships, your business, anything you hope for. So I'm all about it. And I am all about accountability. Give yourself grace. I have to give myself grace every day, just trying to get better and better and more accountable, and hanging out with people like Deb and growing.
So look, thank you so much for being on the show. I love just having, it's refreshing sometimes just to have that couch conversation, right? And we've been there. So you can reach out, have fun. Look at whatever you're doing, have fun. If you feel like you want to be sitting where Carroll is and you've got something to say and you want to sit on the Mission Accepted couch, or you want to come into a group podcast, or look, maybe you want to do a 3-part mini series where you really want to take people through a journey of what it is you do, why you do it, and have something really powerful like that. You know where we are. You can reach out. You have been incredible at sharing about the 262 summits. Incredible. Personal development, business development. If you want to speak, come speak. If you want to listen, oh my goodness, right? We're a no shame, no guilt. Pay if you can and not if you don't. We are literally from Kenya to Canada. It's all about solidarity, all about community. So that being said, I have one last question, because that's what we do here. One last question before we go off, and it's got nothing to do with accountability. It's got all to do with fun. You know what this is. So if you are going on another trip, because I know you've answered this question before, if you're going on another trip and you're packing one more album, like you're shoving it in your suitcase, and that's it, girl, you're going on that trip and you ain't coming back. You're like, bye-bye. What's the album you could not imagine not listening to for the rest of your days?
This is always a hard question, but I'm glad I'm doing a lot today. You know who popped into my mind today? Carole King, Tapestry, because I know every word.
Oh my goodness. I know that album. I have I don't know, it's not that one. I might have that one. Anyways, that was the first introduction to her that I saw. I was hanging out at my mom's husband's sister's place, some way out there. You go there for the summer, and I fell in love with Carole King. And it was the Tapestry album, and they were all about it. Like they were.
I mean, I'll tell you, and I'm gonna throw out some new music that I hope you will listen to and check it out.
Okay.
Go to Foster the People and listen to their new album. I think you're gonna like it.
Foster the People. We got it. You're allowed to today because there's no one else to fight. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Carroll. Thank you, audience. You're amazing. Until we see you next week, be well and stay groovy. Bye for now.
Okay.